Maybe you haven't noticed, but luxury sedans, well, they're dying, okay? Acura's killed the TLX, Audi's killed the A7 and the S7, Volvo's killed the S60 and the S90, even Lexus is killing the LS, their flagship luxury sedan, and Maserati has killed their own Ghibli, along with the Quattroporte, which is taking a little bit of a hiatus while they stuff a giant battery into that. So where do all these luxury sedan buyers go? Well, in a perfect world, they don't have to sacrifice anything and they jump straight into a Grand Tourer like the Maserati GranTurismo Trofeo behind me. The first thing a Grand Touring car needs to do is look stunning. Check. The second thing it needs to do, and this is equally as subjective, it needs to have a little bit of a chill vibe to it. I'm not talking acoustic guitar by the fire, pot smoking, chill. I'm talking, I just spent the last 40 years of my life making a ton of money, and I don't want to have to deal with back pain. Kind of chill. Problem is, I want this chill for both myself and my friends in the back seat. But when inspiration hits, when I want something loud, exciting, when I want to put my foot down, I want the car to have an edge, something my luxury sedan could never give me. So if mature means you've chopped off 2 cylinders, well, that's exactly what the GranTurismo's done. Gone is the NA V8. Here's the Nettuno 3-liter twin-turbo V6, the same engine that's in the MC20, or now they're calling it the MC Pura. I'm not exactly quite sure why. This makes 542 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque, detuned slightly from that MC20 engine. It's a wet sump as opposed to a dry sump. It's a lot of power. Compared to the V8, it's about 100 more horsepower, 100 additional pound-feet of torque. Now, even at higher RPMs, you still, of course, feel the turbo spool up. They've tried to kind of make it as seamless as possible, and they've done a great job. I mean, above 4,000 RPM, it just feels like it's kind of a softer roll-on of torque than a naturally aspirated V8 would give you, but to call it turbo lag would do a disservice to what this engine is doing, because it's a small trade-off for what you're getting in return. It's also got all-wheel drive. It's rear-wheel drive unless it needs to send torque to the front wheel. So it can send, most scenarios actually, it will be sending 100% of the torque to the rear and then up to 50% to the front. So I would call that more mature, you know? These cars, I don't know exactly who the demographic is, but if I had to guess, they're a little bit older than those who are buying an MC20. This is no longer the rear-wheel drive GranTurismo that Bradley Cooper was driving in Limitless, okay? The people who bought those cars wanted to feel like they could kick the rear end out whenever they wanted, but here, it's the middle of the winter, you want to go to Lake Tahoe, you want to hit your ski house, your second winter home getaway, you can take your GranTurismo, and that was not really previously possible. It also has cylinder deactivation, but definitely don't mention that to your friends at Cars and Coffee. Also, what comes with that is just weight distribution. So with that front differential, they've managed to keep the engine back as far as humanly possible. So yes, it is a front mid-engine setup. God, the grip is phenomenal. And with all of this, somehow, with the addition of all-wheel drive, they've managed to gain 0 weight over the previous generation. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a light vehicle. It still weighs about 4,200 pounds. But considering the era, the hybrid era that we're in, it's not bad. And it feels a lot lighter than that curb weight would lead you to believe. It rides a lot closer to a 3,900 pound car. It is equipped with air suspension. It kind of needs that to kind of bounce between those two worlds of grand touring and tossing it around on a canyon road like we are now. It does have an 8-speed ZF auto as well. They didn't try to do any fancy dual clutch hold on tunnel. I don't know how much noise we're gonna get out of it, but That's a noise. I don't know if it's a noise I would pay $240,000 for, but that's definitely a noise, and the power is incredible. It's got a ton of power. Where are the blow-off sounds? When I drove the MC20, granted, the intake was right behind my left ear in that car. When I drove the MC20, I mean, the turbo sounds were incredible. It just, you know, I'm not looking for a crackle tune here, but it's missing a little bit of the theater that the MC20 has. And that kind of speaks volumes to the marketing strategy, the brand funnel, you could call it, right? I drove these cars backwards. I should have driven the GranTurismo first and then the MC20, right? Having driven the MC20, I know what this engine can sound like, at least just from the additional turbo noises and all of that comes with it, but all right, let's do launch control. Corsa, the whole car lowers on the air suspension. The whole car does that regardless, over 70 miles an hour. And it does have a really good nose lift on a side note, but let's do launch control. It should do 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. All I do is tug the paddle and then tug it again. Press full brake, it says, apply full throttle. Oh, wow. Zero drama, 7,200 RPM. Just gobs and gobs of speed. It's one of those cars, and this is what a GT car should do, where you have no idea how quick you're going. Okay, all right, until you look down at the speedo. It's an incredible engine, and it just wants to light the turbos up. It spools up so quickly, and it still wants to rev. It doesn't die at the top end. The ZF gearbox is great. It's, I mean, especially here in Corsa, it feels almost as quick as a dual clutch. There's zero complaints about the ZF. Around town, it is seamless in GT mode. There is a comfort mode. Doesn't really do much. GT is about as lazy as I want this car to be. So this one I'm driving is the Trofeo, which gets you a few additional carbon fiber bits on the outside, a couple of bits on the interior, but most importantly, it gets you an electronically controlled limited slip differential as opposed to the mechanical LSD. To make use of that is an extra 59 horsepower, which I'm sure your friend with a dyno could probably extract out of the base car with a few hours and a laptop. And no, that is not professional advice. So if you're okay with sacrificing 2 cylinders for more power and trading rear-wheel drive for all-wheel drive in the pursuit of balance over oversteer, let's keep digging. As time goes on, cars generally love to get bigger. You know, as things age, they tend to grow, and the GranTurismo is no different. So compared to the previous generation, this one is 3.4 inches longer and 4.3 inches wider than the previous generation. Now, I hadn't spent a lot of time around the first generation car. I've never driven one actually, but in person here, it doesn't look any bigger. I don't know how they've done it. The design of the car itself, like I said, it's stunning. It's got huge hips in the back, long hood. It doesn't look any bigger. I don't know. It's going to age incredibly well, in my opinion. If there's anything about this car that is timeless, it's the way it looks. Personally, I probably wouldn't spec it in this matte blue, but looks stunning nonetheless, especially in the light. It kind of has a little bit of a gloss look to it when the sun hits it directly. But with a car this size that needs to do everything, a larger vehicle than the previous generation, you would expect interior room has not been sacrificed. Easy to get inside, actually. No, this is a real back seat. This is way bigger than a 911's back seat. A ton of trunk space. The fact that they haven't complicated this yet with a hybrid system means there's no battery underneath. The trunk floor is quite low and it's easy to get to. That's a win. Things are really good. Materials are awesome. The paddle shifters are perfect. Really cool yellow stitching. There are a few options as far as that goes. And one thing here, the first thing you might notice, aside from the gauge cluster, which we'll get to in a second, is the digital clock here. It looks kind of analog, but there are a few options. If we go down here and hit clock, we can choose between a compass, we can show our pedals, our brake, and our throttle. Park, reverse, neutral, drive, right here. I mean, it's working right now fairly well, but there are times where it's like there, okay, it was a bit delayed getting into park, but I've hit drive 4 times before earlier in the week, and it didn't respond instantly. So with everything they've done well here, the last thing I want is to be fiddling with touch buttons and having to look down and get stuck in a parking lot when I'm trying to get somewhere. That takes me out of the experience. That's not going to age perfectly. That's not going to be part of a timeless Grand Touring experience. Now, all of the climate control, as you guys can see, is down here, which I thought I was going to hate more than I do, actually. Everything's kind of fixed here. It's a touchscreen, so it doesn't look the greatest. That's really the only complaint. Yes, the glove box is controlled through here, but you don't have to dig for it. That's all well and good. The headlights are down here. That's easy enough. I thought I was gonna hate it more than I do, and the infotainment system, the rest of it, Android Auto, the integration is great. Phone connection has been incredibly easy. Vehicle settings are here. We've got our 360 camera. We'll open up, there we go, a few options there. So there is one thing I don't like. Android Auto is up here, works great, okay? Google Maps here, and I've put navigation.
Something went wrong with the connection. Try again.
Thanks, Google, but no thanks. The center screen here will display maps, but only the native maps. If I go ahead and plug in, well, I'm no longer here, but that is an address that I would like to go to. Start navigation. There we go. Map display unavailable, Android Auto map displayed in radio. In short, if you have a destination set in your phone integrated maps, Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can't have it in the gauge cluster. That's something I would want out of a GT car. That is a huge miss. I'm sure it's possible with a software update, but whether or not that's coming, I have no idea. It's not perfect. The rest of the car is so good and will age so well, but these little things are just pulling me out of the experience. And despite all of this, all-wheel drive, all this stuff, steering's phenomenal, and the car doesn't actually feel very big. It actually feels pretty small. I mean, the car's balanced, the car's nimble. I'm pushing it way harder than I would have expected to. It feels like I could still kick the rear end out if I wanted to. The Gran Turismo, to me, has never screamed enthusiast car. It's always kind of screamed an older demographic, I guess you could say. But it's not. It wants me to push it harder, it wants me to go faster, and it does not fall apart when you do that. The balance is incredible. It's not sloppy, it's precise. Driving position is perfect. It's punchy. It feels way more like a sports car than I expected. You know, GTs could have a tendency to feel a little bit floaty, a little bit lazy at times. Lexus LC500 comes to mind. This is not one of those cars. And it's comfortable, especially if you have a road that's not your typical city of Los Angeles, downtown, pothole-ridden, spine-breaking adventure, then you're gonna be fine. It's pretty good. I mean, the big bumps, wow, you really feel how kind of rigid this car is. I can put the adaptive dampers, the active electronically controlled dampers, out of their hard mode. In a chassis that is so nimble, the grip is insane. I mean, this is not a car that I would have expected to want to go to the track to really extract everything out of it. I thought, hey, here on the street, I'm gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of it near kind of the edge. Not really, the enjoyment's there, but I'm nowhere close to what feels like the edge. And this is where, you know, the rain comes in, the snow comes in, variables like that in which you can kind of play with the chassis and explore the limits of the car in a different way than just your traditional, hey, I can kick the rear end sideways. Yeah, that's awesome. No, that is a ton of fun, but The GranTurismo, if you guys can't tell, has thoroughly impressed me. There are so few compromises with this car, the biggest of which is just the price. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Starting price, $190,000 for the Trofeo behind me. Now, with all of those options, $240,000 USD. That's a lot to stomach. It is effectively the same base price as an Aston Martin Vantage, which has a ton of additional power, about 100 extra horsepower there, and it still has a V8 turbocharged, but V8 nonetheless, or a 911 turbo. They start just over $200,000, so a little bit more expensive than the GranTurismo, but let's face it, the back seats in those cars may as well just not be there, and the trunk space, the practicality of the GranTurismo, hand over fist better than a 911 turbo, although the 911 turbo skews performance. It is a GT car, in my opinion, but way more power there. As a well-rounded package, a Grand Touring car that balances luxury and a sports car experience, something that's buckled down. I mean, this car blew me away. It's rigid, it's quick to change direction, it's small, it's not sloppy, and it could absolutely be your only car. So, the GranTurismo has dodged the temptation of a hybrid system and the complexity that brings, but in the process tossed a wrench into the experience for those who would have otherwise happily driven past a 24-month lease.